So today's theme is dancing through life. And I actually got those exact words or that exact thought because I was listening to music, and it's one of the songs on the Wicked soundtrack, Dancing Through Life. And in the song from Wicked, it's about sort of floating through and ignoring real stuff, which is not what I'm talking about. In the show, they're sort of talking about we're just gonna, just kind of do the fluffy parts of life, which is kind of a nice idea, but of course this is at the beginning of the show, and it all kind of degrades into not so much dancing through life, so they sort of learn that doesn't work out so well. But I like the idea that we understand that we're in this dance of life, whether it's a nice waltz, whether it's more of a tango, maybe sometimes you feel like you're doing the cha-cha, the life cha-cha, where you do a step forward and then you do a step back and then you do a step forward and you step. Anybody ever done the cha-cha with Dan at Life? Yeah. And sometimes you're doing a lot of spinning around, which, depending if you like spinning around, could be a good thing or a bad thing. Personally, I really like the spinning part of dance. But you can take that however you want. So the question that comes up from that original idea that dancing through life is sort of a kind of shallow way of living with, champagnes and ball gowns. The question is to avoid life or to engage in life. So dancing through life or dancing with life. Ooh, that was good. Just came up with that. And we don't just figure out how to do these things right. We don't just figure it out like that. So back when I was a competitive square dancer, yes, I was a competitive square dancer. Some of you already knew that. So when you learn to square dance, like the full basic level of square dancing, it actually takes about 9 months. They start in September and you get done in June. Like learning but you don't try to learn it all at once. You learn, a handful of, probably the first couple lessons you can learn a little more than a couple, but you just learn the basic things like do-se-going and swinging and how to promenade, which, there's a right way and a wrong way. Like one's counterclockwise and the other's clockwise, and one's the right way and one's the wrong way, and if you just came out of a swing, you might be a little confused about which way is up, right? So there's a lot of things to learn. And every week, you practice the stuff you already knew, and you learn a couple new things, right? And so by the time you get to the end of your classes, you've done a lot of practicing, and it's all, it's been cumulative. It's very helpful. And that's sort of the way our regular life is, right? We learn things a bit here and a bit there and a bit there, and as we dance through our life, we realize, counterclockwise is not as useful as clockwise, or vice versa, right? We learn those little tricks. So there's a little side note about my experience in competitive square dancing. When we were practicing for competition, we had, character shoes, which you have the little heel like this and a little strap over them that, you see them wearing on all the fancy dances. That's what we had to wear when we were doing our competition, because that was the kind of the uniform, the standard. And I would wear those shoes for practice, for competition. But when we went to a dance that was just for fun, I would usually wear my cowgirl boots because I really like cowgirl boots. And it made my advisors so annoyed? I'm one who likes to do things my way. Have you figured that out about me? Anyway, I like to do things my way. And I didn't see any reason when I wasn't in a official practice that I should have to wear those shoes. I prefer to wear my cowgirl boots because they spin, right? So it just made them, they're like, well, you need to practice dancing in these shoes so you don't ever have any problem. I'm like, these shoes are exactly the same shoes as I used to tap dance in. And if I can do cartwheels in them, I'm really not that concerned. And I never had a problem with the shoes. Now, breaking my arm while I was tap dancing, that's a whole other story. But it was, they were wanted me to conform to a certain thing that they thought, and they wanted me to be a certain way and dress a certain girly, fluffy way. You probably know that didn't go over very well either. So I had to find, my own, a lot of people may have conformed to their desires and said, okay, I'll not be who show up how I want to show up because you've told me that I need to do it a certain way. My mom raised me to be more stubborn than that, so, much to her, I'm sure, dismay sometimes. But in the dance of life, there is a time for sitting out, and there's a time for going all in. I remember one of those high school dances, and I had borrowed a pair of shoes from somebody, and oh my gosh, my feet. Oh my goodness. So I'd sat out for a little bit, and then I went to try to get back in, and oh my gosh, my feet hurt so much. It was a time for sitting out. But there's also this thing that we do sometimes, whether we're engaging in the spiritual path or whether we're engaging in life or whatever it is, where we decide not to engage in doing the things that might be a little hard. Not because it's a time we've reflected, this is a time of rest, because we're being chicken. And you all know what I'm talking about, probably, I'm guessing. You may have been there, you're like, well, I would like to do that thing, but it's so much safer and comfortable over here. So I won't, right? Kind of that wallflower syndrome, where nobody, life is maybe asking you to dance, but you're not quite sure about whether or not you want to do that. And of course, I was usually, I've always been the kind who will get out there and perfectly happy being the first one on the dance floor at an actual dance. But there's been times in my life where I was like, well, I could just not take the next big step. It would be more comfortable and convenient and less expensive to not take the next big step. But what I've learned is that that's not how my life wants to go. And over time, I've learned that usually if I go with it, it's going to be better. So I don't usually listen to the wallflower voice that wants to play small. Every now and then, it still rears its ugly little head. But that's what you need cowgirl boots for, just on the side, because if you got cowgirl boots, you can stomp on that little wallflower voice. Really good, right? Or maybe you want to, Doris said something about the moonwalk, right? You can do the moonwalk? Okay. Sorry, distracted. So it's good to try something new, right? So sometimes we're at the dance of life, and things show up that are new kind of dance, new kind of experience, whether it's moving to a new place. Almost all of us have moved to a new place before. That's a little whoa experience, right? Going to a new school, going to a new job. That dance of life keeps us on our toes. And sometimes we're like, but here's the other thing. Sometimes we realize we're in a bad pattern. We're in an unhealthy pattern, whether we're staying up too late, or maybe we've got in a lazy habit around food. I've gotten in lazy habits around, be like, this is so easy to make, I'll just keep making this. Anybody else in that? Okay. You won't have to admit to that, but you know what I'm talking about. Or maybe you've gotten in the bad or unhealthy dance with a relationship, whether romantic relationship or friend relationship or family relationship, you've gotten in an unhealthy dance. Whatever that is, sometimes it's okay. You realize it's time to change partners. Or maybe it's time to just be my own partner. It's much safer that way. So, in the dance of life, we want to try something new. We don't have to keep it. We could try something new and decide that that's not really a good fit. But how do we know that we don't like salsa dancing unless we try it? How do we know that we don't like fill in the blank unless we try it? How do we know that the thing that we are feeling maybe we want to try is our thing or not unless we try it? So we just got to be brave. So we dance with life instead of through life. And so all of this, here it comes, Nancy. It all comes back down to prayer and meditation. I say that because every time I say, you know what we start with, Nancy goes, prayer and meditation. Right? So in our spiritual dance, when we stop and get still and breathe and get reconnected to the truth of who we are, we know what the next step is. That's how we get out of the cha-cha. I mean, the cha-cha is a fun dance, but not so much fun when that's your life story, right? We don't want to keep that being our life story. And a lot of us might have learned to dance backwards because, you know what Ginger Rogers said, I could do everything Fred did, but I did it backwards in heels. Or at least that's the quote about her, right? You're still going somewhere. Who says which way you have to face, right? So when we're in that spiritual dance, that is where we come back to. We stop and we say, okay, is it time to do the spiritual salsa? Is it time to be a spiritual wallflower? Maybe it is. Maybe it's time for a retreat. Not like a backwards retreat, but like a go into the silence retreat. Maybe it's time for time away. Maybe it's time to push through the nervousness of doing something new and get out there and shake your groove thing. Yeah. So, I can't answer what your step is for the dance of life. I only can try to figure out my steps for the dance of life. My steps involve all sorts of interesting things, having been in various dance things for a long, long time. I can do some tap dancing. This is why I like my cowgirl boots, because I can tap dance. I can do all sorts of things, right? And like I showed you, they spin. So my dance of life has a lot of, but some people just like the more direct approach. That is perfectly okay. So it all comes down to saying yes to the dance of life. We don't want to, I don't think we want to avoid life, like in the song, Dancing Through Life. We don't want to do that because we miss all the good stuff. We miss the deep relationships. We miss the connection. We miss the opportunity to show up as who we really are and who we've really come here to be. When we really engage with life, with the spiritual process, we can show up as the best dance partner we ever had, doing the dance of our lives so that we could win all the awards on all the dance shows, because that is our highest. So, say yes to the dance of life. And just to remember that, we're going to sing a song about saying yes to the dance of life. Let's do it.